Hey, you are watching the Blackberry Files. So y'all, I was trying to decide if I wanted to speak on this topic or not because if there's one thing that irritates me is when the police want to automatically say that a black person has supposedly committed the S word. Okay. I don't care how old or young a black person is, there's no way in the world we would do that to ourselves. Okay. This case is so suspicious. It's just suspicious. And I don't know what it is about the state of Georgia. Um it's almost like people really don't consider like those smaller areas in some of the things that may happen in those areas. How you live in the state of Georgia and you're not told about certain areas or where you shouldn't be. But in this situation, I'm sorry. If these young men had no interest in hiking, first of all, why would they go to a mountainous area before boarding their flight to Boston? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. You have to make some things make sense, okay? Is there any footage of them from the time that they left their home there in Georgia until the time that they were or should have been on their way to the airport? Where is it at? Where is that? Is there any footage? Is there any, like, were they driving themselves? Did someone drop them off somewhere? This story is just kind of, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered for sure. So, y'all, this is a story about twin brothers who were 19 years old and they were found dead in the Georgia mountains from an apparent murder. I don't want to say the S word because we know for a fact these young men did not do that. And I'm sorry, twins. Um, I have twins that run through my family. I'm sorry, twins have a certain connection to each other. They're always going to be friends. Okay, they're always going to be friends. It doesn't matter how old they get, they're always going to be friends. Um, this story doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. So, after the authorities ruled that the 19-year-old twins, I believe you pronounce the one twin's name Kadar, I believe, and Nazir Lewis, died in the Georgia mountains from a murder, their family has pushed back, which they very much should. They should push back because, see, these police officers, when they come across melanated people, they really don't want to do the work. Case in point, do you all recall when that young man was found rolled up in a wrestling mat? Do y'all remember that? The officers who investigated that case tried to make it seem as if that young black man just up and rolled himself in a wrestling mat. There is really no possible way for that to have been done without someone or a group of people actually doing that. That is just one example. Or how about when a black person is found attached to a tree? In this day of age here, and especially seems within like the last few years here, there seems to be randomness of a black person appearing attached to a tree. We are not going to sit up here and act as if there are not certain groups of people who have a dislike of melanated black folk, okay? Depending on where you live, there is racism all across this country, okay? And If you think about it, the South in particular still works in a particular way in comparison to, say, the Midwest. People who live in the South seem to think, or they're just, I wouldn't say that they're not aware, but it's almost as if they don't want to admit to the fact that there's certain things going on in the South, even in comparison to the Midwest here. And I guess I just always kind of see a difference because I'm a Midwest girl from Kansas to Illinois. I'm a Midwest girl, okay? I have people in Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, okay? In Michigan too. So really, I'm really Midwest, pretty much, born in the Midwest, pretty much raised in the Midwest, besides when I was overseas there. But I have also lived in the South. So South, I've lived in Texas, I've lived in Louisiana. I have people in Louisiana, I have people in Texas, I have people in Georgia. I know some people in North and South Carolina. They're not related, but I do know them there. Well, except for one, they're in North Carolina. But there is just something about the South. And I know people make a big deal out of the state of Georgia, but I've never really been a fan of the state of Georgia. I'm just not. It just never appealed to me. Y'all, this story does not make any sense. First of all, these two young men seem like they were very happy. We know they weren't in any type of trouble. From the looks alone, you could tell that they didn't seem to be involved in nothing in which they shouldn't have been involved in. And that's another reason why this case in itself is just so suspicious. They wouldn't have had a need to be in a mountainous area before boarding their flight to Boston. Even if they were taking a flight, just the two of them and no other family around them, they could have made that trip together and just fine. Even if they had a layover, okay, between Georgia and Boston there. Even if they had a layover, they would have been just fine. This is not the olden days of where you had to always watch the board at an airport because we have cell phones to tell us which gates we need to be at and when we need to actually get off the plane, even for a layover. So none of this is making any sense. The hikers that found them, I find that to be awfully interesting too. So it just makes me wonder, how did they really come across them? Did they notice anything suspicious around the area? Where is the young men's luggage at? Because there's no way you're going from Georgia to Boston. You don't have any form of luggage. You don't have a duffel bag or anything on you. Was the luggage around them? Where's the luggage at? Okay. There's no way that this was done by them. No way. No freaking way. And this is why stories like this really just irritate my soul, because you take young black men especially, and there's no effort, not just for black men, but black women too. There's no real effort to find out who actually did something to them. Okay? There's no real effort. You will never ever see the effort of, say, like the effort that these policemen go for a non-melanated person, okay? Case in point, there was a murder of this white lady by her so-called fiance. They actually lived in Florida. I think the girl's parents was from New York. The girl and her so-called fiance was out there in Montana or somewhere like that. Y'all know how much effort was really put into that? You're talking about a non-melanated boy. I'm gonna call him a boy because he sure wasn't a man, but he drove what they were in all the way from Montana back to Florida. There is a countrywide search, okay? This boy is back at his parents' house. His parents are lying for him, okay? It was really sad as heck that the officers from multiple states had to go out their way to locate this girl to find out where exactly she was. And it just so happened to be that a YouTuber actually was in the area too and came across the area of where the vehicle was spotted at one day. Yeah, a YouTuber helped him out. So guess what? Authorities go back out there. They pinpoint the where the picture that the YouTuber showed, and they found her body. So eventually a family gets together and they go out there to where her body was at, where it was found at rather. But that's the type of effort that they make for non-melanated folk. But when it comes to us melanated people, they don't want to make that type of effort. They would never ever go out of their way like that. Multiple states to find out where the body of a melanated person is. They would never do that. But in this case, you just so happen to have some hikers that came along in the mountainous area there in Georgia and found these two young men. Thankfully, they did find them, but what happened in between time is what needs to be known. There's got to be some sort of footage. There's got to be something out there that will pinpoint what happened to these two young men. Because these two young men committing the S word, I highly, highly doubt it. It's really just an easy way for the police to just be like, well, this case is done over. They did it. No, they did not do it. They did not do that to themselves. But this is how, even this day and age here, 2025, this is how police respond when it comes to Black people. And this wasn't one of those cases, okay? This is not one of those cases where you have some Black young men who were in that type of mindset. That is not the case. It's not. There was no reason for them to do that to themselves at all. So let's not even make it seem as if it was. And this is exactly why an investigation needs to take appropriate steps in solving this case. Yeah. Until then, you have a family and these two young men's friends that are grieving because the actions that really need to be taken are not being taken. Okay? The brothers' bodies were found 90 miles away from their Lawrenceville, Georgia home in an area their family told NBC affiliate WXIA they had never visited with their plane. Yeah, they had never visited, and their plane tickets were in their wallets. I don't know who these young men are supposed to have been flying with, but even with plane tickets in their wallets, I mean, these apps, you got American Airlines, Delta, Southwest, whoever it was they were going to be flying with, all of those apps are something they can use up off a phone, okay? And will have your flight ticket. And there is no possible way these young men were traveling without a phone. Where's the phones at? Surely both of them had cell phones, okay? These cell phones track you even when you think they're not tracking you. Where's the cell phones at? Their uncle spoke to WXIA and stated they don't hike out there. They've never been out there. Ding, 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 ding. Case in point. Why would they be out there? There was no reason for them to be out there at all. There's no possible way you're going to go to an area you have no interest in. Y'all remember, and I forgot the lake area out there in Georgia. And it's been some time ago, but do you all recall when a young black boy was found out there in that lake area? I wish I could remember the name of it, but people have literally died in that lake. And there was a case in point where a young black boy, he was out there with some non-melanated friends of his, and he ended up dead. The young black boy had never even been out there before, but they were supposedly playing out there. Why the heck was he away from his house? Do y'all recall that story? I know it's not just me recalling that story. And like I said, there's certain things that I pick up on from the South and certain stories that happen in the South. I'm just like, wow, like seriously, I would never ever understand why anyone black will ever have the need to go to that lake. So you know what? If a black person pops up at that lake and they're dead, someone lured them out there. But no, there was no reason at all for that young black boy to be out there. And then his friends were supposedly trying to save him. And I'm calling that a straight out lie. No, they weren't trying to save that young black boy. No, they weren't. No, they were not. That lake area that I'm speaking of out there in Georgia, it has some foul stories. Okay, there are multiple people on social media that have spoken about that lake area, and they always say you should never ever be out there at that lake. There's no reason for you to be out there at that lake as a black person. What do you want to go out there for? Okay? There's no reason. When you look at these two young men, I'm sorry, but there is no possible way. Just even the glow in their faces, there's no possible way. You're not going to sit up here and tell the family nor other black people that these two young men did that to themselves in a mountainous area that they ain't never been to. Are you freaking kidding me? These two young men, even just from their picture, they look as if they had their head on straight and they were going places together. Okay, they were going to be there for each other. Someone or a group of people has stripped that from those young men and their family. There has to be more information out there. If you have seen these two young men on that particular day in question, maybe before their flight was to be taken off, because like I said, there's no possible way. First of all, at any airport, you have to give yourself at least 2 hours. So why the heck would they go out to a mountainous area knowing that they had a plane to board? Make that make some sense. There has to be more information. If you saw these two young men in the day of question, please say something. Reach out to authorities there. Again, these young men are from Lawrenceville, Georgia. You can call the non-emergency number there. You can look that up online. I do not have that on me, but there is no freaking possible way that these two young men did that. There's no way. There is no freaking way. Listen, there's just some people, when you come across them, even in a photo, there is no way at all that you could sit up there and say, oh, well, they were this, they were that. No. I'm sorry. There is a certain glow about certain people. And in this case, these two young men, there's no way they did that. No way. I ain't going to believe it at all. But please, if you have seen these young men on that day in question, please say something. Reach out to the authorities there in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and help to solve this case if you know anything at all, because none of this is adding up at all. Condolences to the family and friends of these two young men. I'm so sorry that this has happened, but I really hope in the end justice is served. I'll talk to you all in the next video. Peace.